in our age where everything's on the internet, I don't think you necessarily need to go abroad to get that quality of education. But having said that, you do get an experience of living outside your own context, outside your own cultural context. And I think that makes you really grow as a person, because you see yourself as an outsider. Like I never, till I was there, I never saw myself as an outsider. And of course, people have, even within India, I'm sure there are a lot of experiences that you have in your social groups where, okay, you have that feeling of an outsider, but it's not in this very magnified sense when you're abroad, because it's like all of your assumptions don't hold true over there, because it's a new context altogether. For me, I had my OPT in hand, what I was telling you about, that I had my OPT in hand, but I still chose to come back just because I was very lonely over there. So there's a trade-off between what you want and, I guess, like, you're always choosing, right? So you need to see what you put more value on. And I think for me, I was really just missing being home. Okay, so I was in a very intense program, and also a very intense academic school. So you understand, there is a, like, even within the schools over there, I think they have this kind of they have like subcultures within the school. So like UChicago is this very, they take pride in the fact that everybody's depressed over there, because they're so intellectual. So they have this kind of pride with that. No, I'm just joking.
All right. Okay, so for all the audience, for all the viewers, very good morning. Today we have with us Ashita. She is from Jaipur, and she comes from really the best of the best. To have experienced first St. Xavier's, and then went to University of Chicago. Very passionate about psychology, as it comes across from all the insights that I have about her. But to go more into the details, I think I would really ask Ashita to tell us more about herself, about, let's say, her professional experiences, about where she comes from. Please, Ashita.
Yeah. So I grew up in a boarding school. So I went to Mayo, and after that, I went to Bombay for my undergrad studies. I did psychology and sociology. And during that time, I had picked up some internships in social media marketing and PR jobs. So then I was interested in advertising. I was interested in writing. So I then worked in advertising for 2 years in Bombay itself. And then after that, I realized, okay, this is not for me. This is not something I look at myself doing long term. So I decided I'm going to go and pursue my studies abroad in psychology. But then before that, I also had this like barrier that, I don't know if I'll be able to take care of my finances. And so then I thought that, okay, it makes more sense to probably apply for a PhD, because PhDs are funded. And especially in the US, you get a lot of backing from the program that you get into. So that's, with that in mind, I went back home and I did a master's. I actually did a master's in clinical psychology at Manipal, Jaipur. And then after that, and then I can take you through my entire process of what happened post that. But yeah, that was till the time that I decided to go abroad.
Awesome. So I think so there was this initial question in my mind where I wanted to talk about how this career in psychology really aligns for you, and probably how did you really discover it. So when you say that you were there exercising your interest in advertising, social media marketing, it all of it has a lot to do with human psyche, right? So does it really get it aligned from there, that you got interest in studying psychology to get behind the nerves of the human brain to see what works, what does not, or was it like a separate journey of your development in the interest of psychology?
I think it was the latter, because it wasn't that because I was doing advertising, so I decided to study psychology. I think my interest in psychology had already started right from high school when I got introduced to psychology as a subject for the first time formally. And uh, and I think, a couple of things happened while I was during my undergrad studies, and I made this decision that, okay, no, I don't want to be in academia. This is not for me. I don't like to study too much. This is not where I see myself. And that's why I decided to go in for advertising. So advertising was actually like the anomaly, and it was not, it was not because of that I decided to do psychology. Psychology was always in my plans, but I think somewhere some personal experiences got me discouraged. Um, to pursue psychology. But yeah, I'm very glad that I got back on track. And yeah.
Awesome. And when you say that this particular, I mean, I think that was particularly a very smart decision and a very good strategic move when you say that the studies there are expensive, that we are all aware about. But then you decided to pursue your masters here in India and then probably go out for there for a PhD, which is mostly a funded exercise. So I think this is something that really one should reflect upon. uh, I mean, it can be sort of created as a hack for yourself if you are really wanting to align your finances in your advantage. So, is it something that you got introduced to by someone else, or was it your own research that led you to this insight to take this step for only going out there for PhD and not for masters?
um, I think it was a bit of both, because I was speaking to a few friends when I was in Bombay. A few of them were planning to apply for their masters, and I was speaking to them. And I think when you're like, when I had started the process, I was just so unaware of the realities of the process that, it's like anybody puts like a seed of thought in your mind that makes you like think about your trajectory from there. So I think I was speaking to a friend of mine, and she had told me that, PhDs are funded. Why don't you do a PhD? Because I mean, everybody knew the situation. Like everybody knew the kind of background that I came from, and they knew that, I had told them that finances, I won't have that kind of backing. So, and that's where it started from. And then I started digging and like, reflecting what I want to do. But it was really, I think, the time when my friend told me that, you can do a PhD instead.
But then you went for your masters there, right? How did the course change there?
Uh, so I did apply for, oh yeah, it was a very expensive mistake that I made. Now, having gone there and like seen the kind of experience that people who are applying for PhD come with,
Mhm.
I think I was very naive to think that I would have gotten in to a program, even though I knew that it was very competitive. I think I just didn't realize how competitive it was till I was there, and now I've seen it. But um, I think so. I applied to 15 programs in clinical psychology, and got rejected from all of them. And this was sometime. So you start getting your rejections, I think, starting of January, because the deadlines for your PhD applications are, I think, 1st December or something. Yeah. So that's when I started realizing that, okay, I might not get into a program now, because I think February is when they start giving you like callbacks for interviews. So I was not getting any. So I kind of realized that, okay, maybe this year it might not work, and I might have to just do some research job in India, or get into teaching, because that's generally what people do who want to get into academia. I think by that time I realized that I want to get into academia, but I don't have any close relative who is in academia. So I think I was still trying to like figure my way out. I didn't really have a path charted out for me. I mean, I was looking at information online, but that's never enough, because like your personal factors are never accounted for of the information that you get on the internet. So anyway, then I think again that same friend I was speaking to, and she was like, no, you must come here, because she was already there. She was at UPenn, and she's like, you must come here, and you could figure it out over there, and see from the experience that you get, maybe you get that kind of good grounding that you need to do a PhD. So come here, do a master's, and then see what you want to do. So yeah, and I think I just placed so much value in like studying abroad, because I had done that entire process for 2 years. I had shifted back home to go abroad. So I think I was just so much in that momentum that I was like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And then my grandfather was very helpful, and he helped me pay the tuition. And yeah.
Got it, got it. That sounds good. So, I mean, now that you have to reflect on your determination to really go out there, study abroad, Do you think that was really worth it, and would you really let's say ask people to take that move, because whatever it takes, all the stress, the finances, all of that really accounts for later in the end?
So it totally depends on the reasons for why somebody wants to go abroad. For me, I always assumed, and this was again my um, ignorance, because I just thought that, there is not much in India when it comes to resale. Like I just assumed these things without actually speaking to people, I did speak to people, but I think that was the information that I was getting. And I was looking at it from this framework. So, so I think that was really my motivation, that I wanted to, get this kind of intellectual experience, which I had never gotten before. You know how you place all of this, you make it up in your mind. Um, but having done it, I feel, and which is why I'm back, and which is why I'm planning to do my PhD in India now, is I feel that, in our age where everything's on the internet, I don't think you necessarily need to go abroad to get that quality of education. But having said that, you do get an experience of living outside your own context, outside your own cultural context. And I think that makes you really grow as a person, because you see yourself as an outsider. Like till I was there, I never saw myself as an outsider. So I think just for that development, it's great. But again, this is my experience. Like for some people, it's a necessary thing, because, either they want that kind of, but let's be honest, you do get paid a lot over there. So for some people, they have that necessity because they need to send back money. They need to send home money and all of that. So I think it really depends on your personal motivations. But for me, it was the academic experience. And I think from my point of view now, you can get that even in India. So, yeah.
Okay. So while you're in this process of reflecting the contrast between India and abroad, so you touched upon the fact that the same quality education is now available in India, in the sense that the same quality exposure is now available in India. So do you think that if it comes to really picking one out of the two, uh, people, when they plan for going abroad, number one, they pick US or countries like Canada, all these developed nations, because there are these notions that these countries are far more developed than India, right? And uh, I think when it comes to development, when you break it down into layers, so it's widely announced and said that whatever on the materialistic front, let's say, whatever you slog for in this country for, let's say, about 10, 20, 25 years, and really try to build up here the lifestyle that you sought for, unless obviously if you are fortunate enough to have that lifestyle from your family, if you have to build that lifestyle for yourself, that building of lifestyle comes by default from year one in US. While in India, we know that it takes time, right? The country that we might be, people say that we are probably even 100 years behind those developed nations, and it might take probably two more generations to get to what they are mentally, all that, culturally. So do you think that is a valid conception in people's mind, that if you have to upgrade your lifestyle immediately, then you should travel there, and if you want to get that dream that you have in India, which might appear in front of you in 20 years down the line, that is possible on day one there. So do you think these conceptions hold true now? Because I think what contrast you're drawing is very, very significant, because not a lot of people say that. But probably you could reflect on that.
Again, I'll qualify this as my experience, because I do come from, I would say, a middle class family, and I think whatever I've needed was always given to me. So I speak from a place where I was very fortunate. So yeah. So anyway, having said that, things are very easy over there. So yes, things are way more systematic. So in that sense, it does make your life easier, like the day to day. But like for me, I had my OPT in hand, what I was telling you about, that I had my OPT in hand, but I still chose to come back just because I was very lonely over there. So there's a trade-off between what you want and, I guess, like, you're always choosing, right? So you need to see what you put more value on. And I think for me, I was really just missing being home. And I don't think that I was, and of course, because there was COVID at that time, you were not really interacting with people, even at a professional level. So I think there was just this like, it's a lonely place to live in. So I think you need to really understand what you want and where you put value, and then make that decision. I wouldn't be able to say.
Right, right. So when you talk about a lonely place that it is, and a lot of people say that, I think while that said, there is a very peculiar term. I think it's called FTD, or first term depression, or something like of that kind, which is a word, a term out there recognized and talk about in the Western colleges. Uh, do you think that is something that probably you also face? Because given the context of mental health in the US, or for an international student in any country out there, these terms, or let's say life there, really gets depressing, unless obviously, and COVID is depressing for any country wherever you are. So, but do you think uh, it really had an impact on you? I mean, it obviously made you change some decisions, or make some decisions to come back home. But while you were there, what was the struggle of dealing with this mental state? Is it easy to get a hand on? Do you have you exercise some hacks, physical health or mental health, to really get through it?
Yeah, I think that it's, for me, it was amplified just because the last, I think, 4 or 5 months that I was there, COVID happened. So you were not interacting with people who were in, your courses, because it shifted online. And so I think that way it was, it made things a bit more stressful. But I, to be very honest, enjoyed the time during when I was not meeting anyone, because I was going for walks, and I had a friend who got stuck because of COVID in Chicago. So she was like really my blessing, because her, like just having her in the city was great, because I had somebody like, it was like a social support system that I had, because she had her own friends. So I think, if you have a good set of friends, I think that really works. And during the program, like during when things were offline, when things were normal, um, my roommate was really nice. I had an American roommate, and she would help me with like certain things, like, just like small things, like if I have to go put in a mail, I don't know how to do that. Like, in the sense, I don't know where to go exactly, like what is the right way to do it. So like she would help me in these small things. So I think just having a good social support system, which is a very obvious answer, but I really can't be creative in this. Like this, it is true. Like if you have a good social support system, then things are much easier for you. And depending on the kind of person you are, like I am somebody, I'm not very extroverted, so I have certain things that I like to do. Like I'll go either, I'll go for a walk, I'll go for a run, or I have few friends that I go out for dinners with. So I think that really helps to work through the loneliness. But
Awesome.
some people like to go out, and so I think that's also,
Right.
there are a lot of events. Like, so the thing about these schools is, because they have so much money, they have a lot of events, so they organize many social events. So those things really get you through it.
You talk about this situation that you went through, but if I have to ask you, haven't it been for COVID, would your decisions have changed? Was this decision of coming back to India that you took wouldn't have happened if it wouldn't have been for COVID?
So I think, and I did reflect on this because I had a job interview. So, it just helps to reflect on your past experiences when you're going in for discussions of these sorts. So I actually would have eventually come back. I think if had COVID not been there, the last quarter, because that's the time where you're talking to everybody in your program, like what you're doing next. And, so you're getting all of these ideas, and also people are like infiltrating your brain with all of, what they're going to do. So you get a little nervous. Okay, I should be doing this. So I think just that little, that last bit of your program, I think I didn't have that. So I think that did pull me more towards India. But I think eventually after a year, I would have come back, because even my research is, I was always interested in coming back to India after my PhD also. Like I had thought that after my master's, I'm going to get that experience, work there, and then apply for a PhD. But after that, I would come back, because I wanted to live in India and contribute here. But I think so. Even if I would have taken the OPT and I would have stayed there, I think eventually I would have come back.
Okay, that's a very insightful thought. Okay, so you said that while this mental stresses that one goes through, it's important to have this social circle built, which broadly comes under this umbrella of networking that one goes through while their studies out there. So, do you think that networking was a pre-decided notion in your mind when you, let's say, went out there, and you were very determined that, okay, I'm going out there to study, but I need to also build a strong network, and even if I come back, I need to come back with a strong network? Was that a mindset that you had built, or just all of it happened beautifully and organically?
In the now that you clarified, I think in the beginning, yes, I did think that, I mean, you are going to a city where you don't know anybody, a country where you don't know anybody. So I always had this in mind that yes, I have to make some social relationships so that it gets me through it. But I think it just felt very inorganic when I did try to do it. I wouldn't say inauthentically, but I was trying to like force myself into these social situations, which I generally wouldn't have done if I was in India. So I think after 20 days or something, I kind of gave up and I was like, okay, this is making me super awkward. And I come off as awkward because this is not me. And I'm just trying to put myself in these situations because, I'm in a new country. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this. And then it was very organic. I think from there, you're taking classes together and you have conversation with people. So after that, it becomes very organic with people who stick with you.
Right. So I think what you were to reflect on what you said, the ideal way to go about it is to just be yourself. It's that simple as that, and just do what you do best, and things just happen.
Yeah.
So I think that brings out a very important advantage that probably an international student has. So when you say all of it is relative, Indian student will be comparing their stipends with others in India, or let's say the field in India. Americans would be doing it there. But let's say like you as an international student, you have the advantage to compare the lifestyles and the packages and the relativity between not just the own country that you are in, but also between cultures. Let's say you have this ability to compare it while you are out there in the US. You can draw a contrast between what's the average that I get here, what is the lifestyle expenditure that I have to do here, and then similarly draw a contrast with India regarding the same, let's say the average income or the stipends, or then probably the contrast between the comfort of here and there. So I think that is one significant advantage that an international student really can exercise if they have to really think strategically. Do you think that really holds true, or it makes sense? I mean, I have not been abroad, you have been there, so probably you could justify the point.
No, I think these questions to be very practical, these questions do come in your mind when you're making these decisions. But again, it comes down to what you value and what you want from your professional experience. And really, I mean, you're a person also, not to put like above all of this, you're a person first, and then you're a worker or whatever. So I think it depends on what you put value. I don't think that for me, again, because coming from a fortunate background, I don't think that was that's not why I went there.
Right.
It does come in. I'm not saying it didn't come, when I was making these decisions, it did, but I think it was easy to shoot those factors down.
Okay, so to talk about more about the life there while we are in that zone, uh, practically what was like the weekend lifestyle like? Was it like the one that people dream of here? Like most of them dream of that poppy party culture there that the US beholds, or given the aggressive curriculum you were a part of, you did not get time to really go out. I mean, you were there for like 4 or 5 months practically to experience that. After that, COVID happens. But I think the initial 4 or 5 months are the most exciting because you try and do everything possible that was there in your mind. So, how was like the basic weekend culture or a lifestyle for you there?
Okay, So I was in a very intense program, and also very intense academic school. So you understand there is a, like, even within the schools over there, I think they have this kind of they have like subcultures within the school. So like UChicago is this very, they take pride in the fact that everybody's depressed over there because they're so intellectual. So they have this kind of pride with that. No, I'm just joking, but I think so. I think like through the program they always put it in our head that there's a lot that you have to do, because within 6 months of being in the course, you have to start thinking. Not even 6 months, actually within 3 months of being in your course, you have to start thinking about your thesis, and you're writing your thesis in the last 2 quarters. So I think, and just generally speaking, undergrad degrees and graduate degrees are completely different, because in undergrad you have 4 years, and you have a lot of time to make friends because you're right out of school. So people are in that kind of mindset. But I think when you go to grad school, you've already like been through all of that. So you're just there to like do what you're there to do. And so I think then like the weekend things become secondary. But yes, I did go out for a lot of dinners, and I wouldn't say a lot, but like I did. I don't think it's like it was a party thing for me.
I mean, it was a choice that you made for yourself every weekend, but I mean, given the options, one could really exercise what they see best, right?
Yeah, and also there's a lot of schoolwork that you have to do. So weekends just go in that.
Right. So taking a clue from the schoolwork that you're talking about, I mean, if we have to reflect on the co-curriculars that you were a part of there, if you could probably reflect on that, I believe apart just from your academia and all the studies that you were going through, there were co-curriculars that you got an opportunities to go into, or extracurriculars. Anything that you proudly reflect upon?
I was working in a lab. So okay. After my schoolwork, like after classes used to get over, I used to go to the lab, because most psych students are affiliated to a lab. That's where I did my thesis. So I had that going on. And I think that was the only other thing that I did. And of course, I did like things on my own, but I was not UChicago related.
Right. So this particular lab work that you were a part of, was it a assistantship that you were undertaking, or I mean, there are TAs and RAs there, right? So was this one of those?
So this was because every psychology student that would get through this program had to affiliate themselves to a lab, because that's where they would do their thesis. So it was basically with the intention of where you would get your thesis data from and who would advise you on your thesis.
Broadly, there were, let's say, no TAs or RAs that this course has an opportunity for, or let's say you didn't take a part in. I mean, Indians look forward to doing that.
Yeah, I think they had, at least like on the website, they had written that, we don't give TA opportunities to master's students because you're just there for 1 year. And it's anyway a very intense course. So that was already mentioned to us that was not available. But I think that I was aware of some students not in psychology, but I think they were doing economics and they were TAing. So I think it depends. Once you're there, it's really what you make of the experience, because they'll tell you a bunch of things that, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like they told us you can't audit courses, but I did audit. So they'll tell you a bunch of things you can't do, but then once you're there, you figure out according to the bandwidth that you have and your temperament.